There are many differences between the strangers, sojourners, and exiles of the Hebrew and Christian scriptures and our homeless neighbors of this day. But some of those differences pale when we think about the vocation or identity or calling or even holiness that they share. Our own homeless neighbors, too, are kadosh, set aside, set apart from our own settled life as a word to us. Our own homeless neighbors cleave, lay bare our own settled life and reveal its cost to us, reveal its cost. That cost is known in both a divided community, as we feel ourselves in so many ways here in Washington, D.C., and even individually, the cost exacted by their set-apart status, the cost exacted by their homelessness, is a divided self. We sit on an alley in the lower part of Georgetown. Under that alley is Grace Church's own Georgetown Ministry Center, which ministers to and with and on behalf of our homeless neighbors. There's a building being constructed, mostly residential, some commercial. The units in that building go for $3 to $5 million apiece. Meanwhile, persons who move into that building before long will wake up, and if they look a little sideways out their window, see a large community of homeless persons just a few feet down the alley from them. It's as if to make that division, that divided community, which our homeless neighbors represent to us, quite vivid. I think our homeless neighbors, those kadosh, holy, set aside as a word to us, reveal certain fissures within our own soul and spirit and self, too. They bring to mind some of the compromises, some of the betrayals, maybe, some of the little surrenders that are required of all of us in order to find our dwelling place in the settled community which we inhabit. We might say that they bring a little closer to the surface a stranger or exile or sojourner in each of us that we have hidden away for the purpose of dwelling in our settled world.
Biblical justice does a lot for our community. Biblical justice brings people together. As we work together to solve the problems of those in our community, we really do pull together a stronger social bond. Biblical justice liberates. As we work together to again solve our problems, we also find ways to really change the plight and the condition of those in our community who are struggling for human rights and for their dignity. And so as we work together to solve the social problems, and most certainly as we're focused today on the problems of the homeless, we most certainly make available to many a liberation that gives them freedom to have a better quality of life. Biblical justice restores. It restores those to the place where they're supposed to be in our community as men and women, boys and girls who have a right to a life of quality and of dignity. Biblical justice transforms. We learn more about others that we come in contact with. And at the same time, we understand clearly that all of us are children of God. And as we learn from each other, we're transformed. The principle here is one of doing good to all. It's important that we understand that we are mandated to help to make our world a better place and to stretch forth our hand to the oppressed, to the homeless, and do our best to make things right for them because they are part of our community.
The biblical injunctions are very, very clear, and they're very simple. We share what we have. And if we don't have, somebody helps us. And we lend a hand. And we don't reach down from above. We get down in the mud and put our arms around someone, and we lift them out so both of us can come in the light of day. In Leviticus, for 7 days, every resident amongst the Israelites shall live in booths, the sukkah, in order that your ensuing generations should know that I had the children of Israel live in booths when I took them out of the land of Egypt, and I, Adonai, am your God. We build this temporary booth. They can't hold up to anything. The wind will go through it. The rain will come through it. It lets us know that things are very temporary. The most unique feature that distinguishes a sukkah is the thatch roof must be spread so when you look up, you see the stars. But that's not the intent. The biblical intent is to remind you to look up. Because when we look up, we might remember our own hubris, that we're all created in the image of God. And we might understand that all of us once lived in those temporary booths. All of us started on a journey. We live in a city of great abundance. Great abundance. And every developer knows some loophole to get out of their portion of housing that they should provide for those who need. And I think all of us, citizen, developer, government, homeless, all have to be equally accountable in this process. Everyone has more seats at their table than they have people at their house. We got more food in our refrigerators than we can eat in a week. This is not a responsibility of government. This is a responsibility of God's children. It is the citizens that make a government good, that make it accountable, that make a society something worthwhile.
What we've been doing so far is clearly prayer, but let's do prayer a little bit more explicitly, praying with our imagination, with our feelings especially, not just our heads. We feel God calling us to be justice, to be love, to be peace in the world. We see the world as God sees it. That whatever we do, all that we do with great love for our brothers and sisters. Amen. Amen.
Homelessness in the city of DC is worse than any other place almost in the nation. We can and must do better. Vote for the 3 supporting statements you believe best portray the major issues which we need to address.
It's hard to live out that vision of heaven on earth in the District of Columbia because God may have a great vision, but economics gets in the way. We have incredibly high housing costs in the District of Columbia, and yet the same low-wage jobs that you see everywhere in this country. With widening income inequality every year, housing just gets further and further out of reach. And so it's just a tremendous challenge to make sure that everybody has a home and a place that they can afford.
The number of people across the spectrum of society that find themselves homeless is noteworthy. There are veterans, there are families with kids, there are single people of all ages and walks of life, and to see the magnitude of the need, the striking contrast of affluence and poverty takes your breath away.
The biblical roots of justice tell us that people of faith, that one of our most important missions is to take care of our neighbors.
It will become a priority for the government when it's a higher priority for all of us.